Letter 50 by Charles Lamb. Charles Lamb to Thomas Manning. P.M. Feb. 13, 1800. Dear Manning, Olivia is a good girl, and if you turn to my letter, you will find that this very plea you set up to vindicate Lloyd I had made use of as a reason why he should never have employed Olivia to make a copy of such a letter I could not have sent to my enemies B.H. if she had thought fit to seek me in the way of marriage. But you see it in one view, I in another. Rest you merry in your opinion. Opinion is a species of property, and though I am always desirous to share with my friend to a certain extent, I shall ever like to keep some tenets and some property properly my own. Some day, Manning, when we meet, substituting Corydon and fair Amaryllis for Charles Lloyd and Mary Hayes, we will discuss together this question of moral feeling, in what cases and how far sincerity is a virtue. I do not mean truth, a good Olivia-like creature, God bless her, who, meaning no offense, is always ready to give an answer when she is asked why she did so and so. But a certain forward-talking half-brother of hers, sincerity, that amphibious gentleman, who is so ready to perk up his obnoxious sentiments unasked into your notice, as Midas would his ears into your face uncalled for. But I despair of doing anything by a letter in the way of explaining or coming to explanations. A good wish, or a pun, or a piece of secret history may be well enough that way conveyed. Nay, it has been known that intelligence of a turkey hath been conveyed by that medium without much ambiguity. Godwin I am a good deal pleased with. He is a very well-behaved, decent man, nothing very brilliant about him, or imposing, as you may suppose, quite another guess sort of gentleman from what your anti-Jacobin Christians imagine him. I was well pleased to find he has neither horns nor claws, quite a tame creature, I assure you. A middle-sized man, both in stature and in understanding, whereas, from his noisy fame, you would expect to find a Briareus Centimanus or a Titius tall enough to pull Jupiter from his heavens. I begin to think you atheists not quite so tall a species. Coleridge inquires after you pretty often. I wish to be the pandar to bring you together again once before I die. When we die, you and I must part. The sheep, you know, take the right hand, and the goats the left. Stripped of its allegory, you must know, the sheep are I and the apostles, and the martyrs, and the popes, and Bishop Taylor, and Bishop Horsley, and Coleridge, and C. and C. The goats are the atheists and the adulterers, and dumb dogs, and Godwin and M.G. and that Thyestean crew. How my saintship sickens at the idea. You shall have my play and the Falstaff letters in a day or two. I will write to Lloyd by this day's post. Pray, is it a part of your sincerity to show my letters to Lloyd? For really, gentlemen ought to explain their virtues upon a first acquaintance to prevent mistakes. God bless you, Manning. Take my trifling as trifling, and believe me seriously and deeply. Your well-wisher and friend. Mary Hayes was a friend of Mary Wollstonecraft, and also of Southey and Coleridge. She wrote a novel, Memoirs of Emma Courtenay, which Lloyd says contained her own love letters to Godwin and Friend, and also female biography or memoirs of illustrious and celebrated women. Lloyd and she had been very intimate. A passage from a letter of Coleridge to Southey, dated January 25, 1800, bears upon the present situation. Miss Hayes, I have seen. Charles Lloyd's conduct has been atrocious beyond what you stated. Lamb himself confessed to me that during the time in which he kept up his ranting, sentimental correspondence with Miss Hayes, he frequently read her letters in company as a subject for laughter, and then sate down and answered them quite a la Rousseau. Poor Lloyd. Every hour new creates him. He is his own posterity in a perpetually flowing series, and his body unfortunately retaining an external identity. Their mutual contradictions and disagreeings are united under one name, and of course are called lies, treachery, and rascality. Another letter from Lamb to Manning at this time tells the story of the Charles Lloyd and Mary Hayes imbroglio. Lloyd had written to Miss Hayes a very odd letter concerning her Godwinite creed, in which he refers to her belief that she was in love with him and repeats old stories that she had been in love both with Godwin and Friend. Here is one sentence. In the confounding medley of ordinary conversation, I have interwoven my abhorrence of your principles with a glanced contempt for your personal character. This letter Lloyd had given to his sister Olivia to copy, an ignorant Quaker girl, says Lamb, I mean ignorant in the best sense, who ought not to know that such a thing was possible, or in rerum naturae that a woman should court a man. Later, as long as Lloyd or I have known Coleridge, so long have we known him in the daily and hourly habit of quizzing the world by lies, most unaccountable and most disinterested fictions. And here is one more passage. To sum up my inferences from the above facts, I am determined to live a merry life in the midst of sinners. I try to consider all men as such, and to pitch any expectations from human nature as low as possible. In this view, all unexpected virtues are godsends and beautiful exceptions. Lamb had just met William Godwin, 1756–1836, probably having been introduced to him by Coleridge. Godwin, known chiefly by his Political Justice, 1793, Caleb Williams, 1794, and St. Leon, 1799, stood at that time for everything that was advanced in thought and conduct. We shall meet with him often in the correspondence of the next few years. Bishop Horsley, then of Rochester, afterwards St. Asaph's, was probably included ironically on account of his hostility to Priestley.